Hey guys, Kara50 here with another review. This time I'll be reviewing the complete selection modification Tatsulot from Master Kiva. This is the CSM version of Kiva's power-up device and includes new molding, new sounds, and new features. This set includes 5 things: Tatsulot himself, the Tatsulot brace, 2 fossils, and a new eye part for the CSM Kiva belt. This is going to be part 1 of a multi-part review, in which I'll be taking a look at the main features, as well as comparing it to the original deluxe Tatsulot. So, let's get started. First up, we'll take a look at the 2 included fossils, which are the Tatsulot fossil and the Wake Up Fossil Zonvet version. First up is the Tatsulot fossil, which is used to summon Tatsulot. It's got a nice metallic red plastic with some good gold paint. You can see it has a pipe organ motif to it. It's also painted on the back, which is very smooth. It's also a lot more flat than other fossils just because of a secondary purpose it serves. For comparison, here's the original one from the deluxe Tatsulot. You can see that, obviously because of the size difference between the 2 toys, there's also a difference in the size of fossils, where this one is extended and narrows out near the top, whereas this one is a lot shorter and isn't quite as detailed. It also extends to the back, where you can see that there's actually this bit of a pointed ridge here on the deluxe version that is not on the CSM version. And if you notice here, there's a bit of scratching on these parts of it, and I'll explain how that happened and how you can avoid that. Next is the Wake Up Fossil Zonvet version. It's the one used to basically use the Zonvet sword special attacks. So for this one, this is a clear base with metallic gold for the top as well as clear black. So it has this bat-like visor effect. For comparison, here's the original version from the deluxe toy, where you can see it uses a gray base, and while it does have the whole eye holes and the mask-like portion, it's not filled in, so there's definitely a big difference between the 2. Although in the case of this, there is no CSM Zonvet sword, so it has nothing to attach to. Next, we'll look at the details of Tatsulot and the Tatsulot brace. So, compared to the difference between the CSM and deluxe versions of the Kiva belt and Kiva himself, there's a bigger difference between the 2 different versions of Tatsulot, where in order to make it more show accurate, they actually created a whole new mold for a bigger Tatsulot than the original. So in this case, I'll bring in the original right away. As you can see, there is a good bit of length added to it, as well as an overall bigger scale to the body. It uses the same color of gold paint that was used for the CSM Kiva, so you've got the difference in the gold color between the 2 of them. It still keeps a lot of the details, such as the crown and the horns, as well as the nice metallic green eyes. You can see that for the roulette, they've changed the stickers to just being flat to now having a hollow foil pattern. The buttons on the side, which are no longer the release buttons, have been changed from clear to black. You can see there's now some raised details that weren't on the original, as well as a cleaner underside to the wings. On the bottom, they look about the same, though obviously, of course, there is the big size difference. Similarly, you also have the Tatsulot brace, which of course is bigger, and there's also some other differences as well. For both Tatsulot and the Tatsulot brace, they've removed this kind of rough pattern that was on the original, as I guess that wasn't show accurate. We've got a lot of the same details though, and the big difference here is the red plastic straps of the original are now replaced with these black Velcro straps. These ones have a bigger size to fit an adult wrist. Now just give me a little bit. I can show you that it does even fit my wrist. So this is properly adult sized. In fact, the straps are so big, I can even fit it over my jacket, which is quite nice. And this change in detail is honestly fine because one of the big things about the Tatsulot brace is that it's not something that Kiva ever used when not transformed. It's something that's literally mounted onto his forearm. So the only time he ever uses it is when he's already transformed. So really, not having the straps match up with the color of the brace is perfectly fine. And then, of course, the Tatsulot Fussel can fit onto the bum as the lower jaw. And here's where we get to that little scratch. You can see there's also a bit of scratching down here, and that has to do with the main gimmick of Tatsulot, where you pull on his nose to make the roulette spin. But there is a little bit of give to where, as you can see, it is possible to kind of push it down like that, and unfortunately what I was doing is that I was kind of pulling it down, and it caused it to kind of rub against the fussel here, and essentially it caused both of them to scratch each other. So when actually using the gimmick, you want to make sure to keep it straight up and then pull outward so that you're not risking scratching the paint here, or otherwise just, if you don't want to take any chances, you can do it without the fussel attached. And of course, you also place the fussel down here. And actually it wasn't until, a little bit recently that I probably realized that this is supposed to form the lower jaw. It's definitely more noticeable here on the CSM Tatsulot, whereas it looks more like a tacked on piece on the deluxe version. Next up, we can switch on Tatsulot and take a look at the electronics. So, we got the power switch down here. Takes two AAA batteries, one that goes in each of these two slots. So we can switch them on and give us a little startup sound. Now, on its own, first off, just like with Kiva, if you move them up and down, you get a little wing flapping sound. There are also other ways to get him to make sound. So first of all, there's a couple of phrases he'll say if you pull on his nose. So has two buttons here which are for his voice phrases. The button up here is for lava sounds that makes on its own, whereas the bottom one is actually more for sounds he makes when interacting with the CSM Kiva, which is a feature that he has. Now if you press and hold both buttons, or rather if you press both buttons quickly, that will put him into standby mode for the voice interaction, so when you do that, you can actually talk to him. Ohayo! And that's something we'll get more into detail with in the next part of the review. Next up, we'll bring in the CSM Kiva belt for the transformation. Now, there are actually two different ways of activating the transformation. One that involves the Kiva belt and one that doesn't. So we'll start with the one that doesn't, so you know how to do it without actually having to have this. So, what you need to do is press the two buttons to speak, and then speak his name. Then after that, you'll activate the standby sound and you put him on the brace. Tatsulot! We'll just place him on like this. And so there you have the transformation into Kiva Emperor form. Now to deactivate the transformation, take him off the race, then press both buttons at once. There's also a way to do that without actually needing to properly speak his name in Japanese. So for that, we kind of switch to the Pseudo voice mode, which is done by pressing and holding both buttons, then switching him on. So with this, the flapping sound is disabled, and then you can say anything, and it'll respond as if you're activating the transformation. Tatsulot. 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 I think it's supposed to work like that. Hold on, let me do that. I think a little closer. Tatsulot. Maybe it doesn't work? Hello? I think the problem is that the speaker is somewhere back here rather than somewhere up here. Of course, there's also a method that involves the Kiva belt. So let's just reset the transformation. Or rather, wake him up. We're actually going to start out by removing and switching out the eye part. Just like that. So, we'll then take the Tatsulot whistle from his bottom jaw, activate it using Kiva, and then that'll send a signal to Tatsulot to start the transformation. Hold on one sec. Alright, let's do that over again, this time properly. And as you can see, when you get the eye change sound, Kiva's eyes now change to cycling through the colors in a rainbow pattern. And we can add on to that even more. If we use the whistle one more time, but this time we'll set some BGM on standby. And for anyone who knows Kiva, you know exactly which song this is. And there we go. Now we can change it out to the rainbow eye part. And while it does mostly block out the light, if you look carefully, you can see that it does somewhat glow in different parts, depending on what the eye color is. It's a lot more noticeable in lower light, but when it's in bright light like this, it's hard to see. From there, we can activate the different fever attacks. So there is a little bit of difference between the way this works and the way the deluxe version works, in that only the Wake Up fever will activate automatically when used. So let's start with that one. And so we get the Emperor Moon Break, with a much more elaborate sound. Now one of the cool things here is that there are actually different intonations for how he says different attacks, so if we try doing that again... you can hear he says it in a different way that time, and there's actually one more way. You can then skip those attacks by pressing one of the buttons on the side, and he does have a few voice phrases for the transformation. So these are sounds for summoning the Zanvet sword. Next we move on to Garulu Fever. Now there are actually two ways of activating the other three attacks. One is that once you have them selected, just press either of the side buttons. And that gives you the Emperor Howling Slash. And then we can get to Garulu Fever again for the other intonation. So the other way to activate it is similar to the show. You remove this, and because there are no CSM arms monsters, instead when detached you press the buttons, and that will give you the attachment sound as well as the special attack. Let me put it back on. And next we move on to Basha Fever. Okay, that's for a little bit later. There we go. This gives us the Emperor Aqua Tornado, attack that was never actually used in the show. And so we'll then get the other sound for it. Tatsulot does not like Basha today. Come on. Okay, I swear it is a different version of that sound. There we go. Now we can move on to Doga. And that was the Emperor Thunder Slap. And there we have the other one. And you will notice that they actually use the recordings from the original Deluxe Tatsulot as well as the new ones. And then we move on to what happens when you pull on the horn 4 times in a row. Just like with the original, this is the transformation into Kiva flight style. So there are a few sounds you can get from this mode. If you press this button, you get a wing flapping sound. If you press the other button, you get a screech sound. And then if you pull the horn, you get the special attack for Kiva flight style, Bloody Strike. Then to switch back to Emperor form, you press both buttons at once. And to deactivate the transformation for Emperor form, you detach Tatsulot and then push both buttons at once. Next we'll get into one of the new features added for the CSM Tatsulot, which is the transformation into Kiva DoGaBaKi Emperor form, which is exclusive to his Hyper Battle DVD. So to do that, first of all, we'll reset the transmission for Kiva. Next, you want to press and hold both buttons at once. Or just one, I think. Then attach them to the brace. And there we get the transformation into DoGaBaKi Emperor form. And then you can activate the DoGaBaKi Emperor break by pulling the horn until you get to Wake Up Fever.
Wake up, Fever! DoGaBaKi Emperor Breaker!
And setting aside Tatsulot, we can then use the Zanvat version of the Wake Up Whistle to activate the final Zanvat slash. Finally, we can test out the different transformations with Kiva at the 4th mode, as they are different. Then we also get a different sound for DoGaBaKi Emperor form. And in this case, we get no voice lines between them because this wasn't ever something that happened.
Wake up, Fever!
And in this case, you don't get Kiva at that 4th saying DoGaBaKi Emperor break. Then we have the final Zanvat slash. Additionally, there is a quick version of the transformation you can do by simply placing Tatsulot on the Tatsulot brace. Which is much more brief. And last but not least, we'll do a sound comparison between the deluxe and CSM versions of Tatsulot in terms of the sounds that they share in common. First up, the transformation. Tatsulot! Tatsulot! Then, these special attacks. First, Wake Up Fever. Next, Garulu Fever. Then Basha Fever. Then Doga Fever. The transformation into Flight Style. And one thing interesting to note here is that that scream that Tatsulot makes in the deluxe version is accurate, so the removal of it from the CSM version is a little bit strange. Then we also have the detachment sound and a attachment sound to one of the weapons. And there we go. So, on a basic level, the CSM Tatsulot is much improved over the original. Obviously, there are the big physical differences, where this is an interesting case of a completely new mold being used, obviously based on the original, but a lot more screen accurate and thus adult-sized, and it's definitely a big plus to actually have a wrist brace that can well fit an adult arm thanks to the Velcro instead of the plastic straps, which were very much on the small side. Not to mention, you actually get a way of replicating the unique eye effect that happens to Kiva when Emperor form is used in the show, along with the different features such as having DoGaBaKi Emperor form, which wasn't there before, or actually having individual attack sounds for the different fevers instead of just the generic charging sound that you got from each one in the original. That being said, this is obviously something that is meant to be used alongside the CSM Kiva belt in more ways than one. I have shown you how it interacts in terms of the actual battle roleplay features, but there is more, which you'll be seeing in the next part, in which I'll look at the different voice lines as well as the interactions, or the voice interaction, between Tatsulot and Kiva. So until then, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and if you're new and would like to see more, please subscribe and hit the bell icon. And for now, this is KRX50, riding off.